Alrighty, boys. Now that we have gotten a peek at the final draft results from the 2022 fantasy football season, let's get this pod underway. It's good to be back, boys.
So good to be back. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Like a little 2-week hiatus.
I'm glad to see this podcast didn't just completely fall off a cliff while I was on the sandy, sunny beaches of Florida. You guys actually did a heck of a job, so commending you guys.
Pierce did come in clutch that week.
Yeah, Pierce did do well for all the pot city stirs. He did really well. So
he is a mega pot stir.
So today's going to be our draft recap episode, and I think a lot of us are really excited to actually have something to go off this year. But for now, I want to kind of introduce everybody again. I'm a commissioner, the worst commissioner, Colin Sears. We have Vinny over here, Deucer Pat in the chair as always. And our guest this week is the Corn Kid himself.
It's Cone High School football. I can't imagine a more beautiful thing. Like Cone, this new basketball team has the juice. Have a fantastic season, Huskers. Go, 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 Big Red.
Cue corn video. Andy Ray. It's so good to have you, Andy. Or should I say shirtless Andy? What's up with that?
No.
He's got the juice.
No. My dog will start licking me to death.
Oh, he's definitely got the juice then.
He does have the juice, man. So I got a question for you, Andy.
Yep, sorry.
Why is your team name not just Corn Kid? Have you seen this video?
I have actually. So I saw it last week on Twitter. Somebody was making fun of Nebraska with the Corn Kid. But
so this internet sensation blows up. I think you're a perfect embodiment of this. You know how some of us have permanent team names that we don't change?
Yeah.
I could see yours being Corn Kid.
Corn Kid.
That actually would be kind of true.
Just Corn Kid. It's so simple. I love it. What do you guys think, Pat, Vinny?
I agree. Corn Kid. He is known as the corner, the Corn Kid in our group. I mean,
really knows how to husk a corn.
All right.
So really knows how to grow it.
I'm challenging the league. Put peer pressure on Andy.
Right now.
What happened when you tried?
I don't want to inflate his ego too much here.
What happened when you tried it with butter? Did everything change?
No.
No, I thought everything changed when you tried it with butter.
I am so sorry. Can I?
No, you're good. You're fine. We can hear you.
So we'll take a quick pause, and I'll get my next topic I was going to ask Andy about is the new phenomenon that's breaking the internet, and that's the Andy Pat rivalry. It's taken our league by storm, and I think it's something that the entire world looks forward to every year.
Yeah.
Mostly because, neither one of you have really won a whole lot.
No.
And so this is just a battle. Clay has a meme that sums it up perfectly. Cue the meme.
Yeah, cue the meme.
But I think our league kind of agreed that we need to start calling this bad boy the Panda Bowl. Pat and Andy, Pandy.
The Pandy Bowl.
So, Pat, let me get your thoughts. What do you think about the Panda Bowl?
So this rivalry goes back to the very first season that I ever came. And I really don't know what caused the rivalry, but there was some message in our chat. And I think it just kind of sparked this unspoken rule of we hate each other, which I think we both have just kind of let grow, so to speak. So I love this rivalry. I love that we get our own bowl game. I think the Panda Bowl is a weird flex. I think the better name for this should be the Portillo's Italian Beef Bowl. And I don't know about what Andy thinks, but I think it would be a really funny tradition if whoever wins, the loser has to send the winner an Italian beef from Portillo's.
Hey, what if Portillo's catches on and they'll provide it for us?
Everyone knows in this chat how much I love Portillo's. If we could ever get Portillo's to sponsor this podcast, that would be the dream. No other sponsors needed, just Portillo's.
No free shout outs.
No free shout outs.
No free shout outs. But Portillo's rocks.
Yes.
So yeah, I think, hey, you guys write them up a letter. We will rename that bowl the Portillo's Bowl if they will sponsor it. I think we could even combine it. We could do the Panda Portillo Bowl.
No.
Oh,
No?
Panda Express.
No, yeah, because you're gonna fill in Panda Express, and I don't know.
I'm not.
No free
advertising.
shout outs.
Yeah, no free shout outs.
Portillo's Bowl.
Okay, Andy, let me get your take on this rivalry.
I mean, I don't know.
Rivalry.
I feel like, honestly, if I had a mustache, which I don't, we kind of look similar. I think we have similar personalities. Like, I think we're both really funny. Like, I don't know. I think our personality.
Oh, what a compliment. What
Did you
a
hurt your arm patting yourself on the back so hard?
Dang.
Well, so I think that's a lot of it. Like, and like you said, I don't remember how it started, but then I just started hating Pat, and then I think of Patrick Starr, and I don't know. I just roll with it. In my phone, he's literally Patrick Starr. That's his name in my phone, and it always will be. But
Who are you
think
calling Pinhead?
Oh, man.
No, I think it's just kind of more out of just for fun. Like, we both suck. We don't have to worry about the playoffs. Well, I mean, I make the playoffs. I just don't do anything in them. But, like, I think this gives us, like, motivation to actually try in the league because we have nothing else to play for. So might as well talk shit and beat each other.
Yeah,
Hey,
some of us in this podcast who are not going to be mentioned accidentally made a bet and a pledge that they will make the playoffs. So I have a little bit more writing this year than Andy, but I mean, that's where we're at.
Hey, wouldn't it be awesome if that came down to the Portillo or Panda Bowl yet to be determined? That would be
Oh my gosh,
amazing.
can you imagine if the championship was us two?
Be fantastic.
Dude,
That'd be
our
like-
league would die like of fire. Like, that would be so sick.
You'd have
so
to send
funny.
Portillo's for life if that's the case.
I'd be sitting there. I'd be eating my corn, just enjoying life. I wouldn't even care if I won.
That's awesome.
That would mean I
Speaking
won.
of having to make the playoffs there, old Pat, I think that's a good segue to then go into our rankings of what we thought for each team on draft night. And fortunately, you're in the first division that we talk about. So do we want to start
Yes,
off
sir.
with our grades for Division Mitch? Because that's what
Yeah,
it's called.
yeah. So we're going to start in Division Mitch because, as we know, we're changing the way we do divisions this year. They're going to be drafted by the division winners from the
After they
previous
cry
year.
about it.
Yeah, unless there's somebody who wins a championship like Pat and who doesn't win the division. So, yeah. Let's start with Division Mitch, and let's maybe Andy pick a team. Who do you want to talk about first?
I mean, let's just talk about Pat. He's right
Yeah,
here.
I knew you were gonna. I knew you were gonna say that. Let's go. Bring on the
Let's
hate.
go.
Bring it on. Come on.
So, I kind of did things a little bit different, but I kind of made paragraphs about each one they saw.
That's
So
right.
Pat's team is worse than Rutgers.
But so Pat, so the first thing I noticed with Chubb, Cup, and Pitts, like, I gotta respect that. Like, I feel like that's a solid, good core. That each week one of those guys could go off and put up a ton of points. Like, I really did appreciate that about your team. Like, I think you do have some guys that could carry your teams. If one guy has a bad week, another guy could easily make up for it.
Mhm.
Colin might hate me on this one a little bit, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he hasn't done anything in the league. I feel like, especially fantasy wise. Like, I know he's on the Chiefs. Obviously, Mahomes is his quarterback. He's the RB1 on the Chiefs, but I feel like every year, people draft him, but it doesn't seem like he ever. I don't want to say isn't relevant because he is, but he's not going to win you a week. I feel like.
But he always has that chance to possibly break out, and everyone's always itching for it.
It's one of those every year people are just waiting on it, but it hasn't happened. I don't think it will. And then Mike Williams, I think that's Chargers receiver, right? If I'm
Yep.
feel like he's going to be hit or miss because I feel like he could easily go off for 8 catches, 150 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Or he could, have 2 catches for 25 yards and no touchdowns. Feel like he's kind of a hit or miss type of guy that the Chargers have a lot of weapons, with Allen, Eckler. Palmer's not bad. Their tight end isn't bad. So I feel like there's just a lot of mouths to feed,
It's almost like a feast or famine type of situation.
And then Carr, I think he's a solid quarterback, but I don't think he has a lot of upside, because he doesn't rush. So I just felt like, he's an okay pick, but I don't think he's anything too special, in my opinion, even with Adams being there and a couple of other weapons. One thing I really liked, Hunt. I think Hunt's huge because will he be traded? I think is the big question sitting out there right now. there's a lot of speculation that he wants to be like the top back somewhere. And so that one could be a huge pick of he could be a running back at another team if somebody would trade for him.
It's only if he gets traded to a good team.
Or if Chubb would go down, then
Yeah.
he has Chubb's backup essentially. But
Mhm.
I don't know. That was kind of the biggest notes I had on his team. I mean, I think he's pretty solid.
Yeah. So I had Pat graded out at a B here, mostly because I was kind of reviewing it after my initial thoughts and saw, okay, he's got a solid core, Cup, Chubb, Pitts, but then especially he gets a big boost, if say Mike Williams or T. Higgins, those are kind of big boomer bust guys. If one of those guys goes off, and then at the end of the year you throw in DeAndre Hopkins, who could come back and play a significant role down the stretch, I think Pat's got a pretty good shot this year. As far as draft capital goes, I mean, I think you got to look at who's I going to mention? Yeah, Hopkins for $4. I mean, $4 is definitely worth a dart throw. I still think he's one of the most talented guys in the league. It's unfortunate that you don't get him for the first 6 games, but for $4, hey, that's worth.
If you can win 50% of those games out of the gate, and then Hopkins comes into the mix, you have a good chance for playoffs with that division.
Definitely.
I'm not as high on Hopkins. Last year, I know he was hurt and stuff, but besides like week 1, because I had him stacked with Murray last year. Besides week 1, I swear he like didn't do anything over like maybe 12, 13 points. I don't have that in front of me to know for sure, and I get that he was hurt, but like it used to be like a 70, 80% Hopkins was better than most receivers in the league. But I like kind of question now, like as he's gotten older and stuff, like is he going to be as effective? I don't know. That's just kind of my take of. They brought in Marquise Brown, or Hollywood Brown. He's going to be there, throw it, down the field, kind of spread them out. I mean, last year they traded for Ertz, who's going to be kind of a dump off guy, that can work in the middle of the field. So I don't know if I'm as high on Hopkins, but.
Pat, what do you think? What do you think of your drafted team this year?
I want to hear Clay's thoughts first before I go in.
Out of that division, I think it's the second best one based off the draft. Just off that, the only thing is,
hey, whoa, we're gonna save the division rankings for afterward.
Oh, sorry, my bad. The only reason why I'm not as high on Pat's team is that if one of these top guys goes down, he could be in for a rough go of things. Just saying if Cup goes down, that could be bad, because if we're talking about both T. Higgins and Mike Williams being either boom, feast or famine type individuals, that's a lot of unknown every single week.
But I mean, that could play into every team too,
that plays into every team. It's just Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's my question mark on the team. I think that's always everyone's question mark. But if you can get him at a good value, it's worth a shot, because I don't think he's having a whole lot of competition behind him other than like Jerick McKinnon and Pacheco or whatever his last name is. But other than that, I mean, they're still a pass-heavy offense. So we'll see.
What are your thoughts on Ronald Jones making the 53-man roster there?
He's going to be like the 4th or 5th man. I think they just want to use him as trade capital for possibly like a late round pick.
Much.
Yeah. I don't foresee him playing much.
Pat, what do you think?
Yeah, so I'll run through mine pretty quick, because I actually agree with all of your takes. This year, I really should change my team name to the Unknown, because a lot of what I'm going into with this team is a bunch of unknowns. Fun fact, I feel like I had the legitimate steal of the draft because I got Cooper Kupp for under $20 his pre-draft value. So I'm declaring myself as the stealer of the draft for Kupp. But other than that, as you all said, there is a bunch of unknowns on this team. If Clyde Edwards-Helaire finally gets his stuff together and can produce the numbers that he should be producing as a running back, I think he's a very solid option. But might be bad late down the stretch if he doesn't get his stuff together.
If he gets the goal line touches, he should be an automatic
right.
At least a fringe RB2 in any league. It's
Correct.
just he doesn't get goal line touches.
And that's the problem. And that's what I'm kind of hoping this year, that they're going to start using him more for those goal line touches. Because, I mean, he's not very big, but he's really fast.
Well, they don't have Daryl Williams. Is it Daryl Williams? Yeah. They don't have him for the goal line touches anymore. So, I mean, I think it's open.
Yeah. Kareem Hunt, last year. I picked him up specifically because I felt last year only having Nick Chubb and not having Kareem Hunt left off so many extra points that I could have had on my team with that duo together. Now, that being said, I think if Kareem Hunt does leave Cleveland and gets traded to a better team, wouldn't be upset if he went to KC, actually. But if he went to a better team and got more opportunities,
I don't think they'll let him kick it in Kansas City anymore, if you know what I'm saying.
Nice.
Yeah.
But I think if he leaves, his draft value goes up, and which means that is a really good value to have as my flex option. And DeAndre Hopkins, I'm hoping he's just a late season, really nice grab. I don't know if I'll ever see him up in the board, but I think he will be a really nice late season addition. And yeah, overall, I think that my draft itself has been the best draft that I've ever done in this league in the last 3 years. And I'm really excited to see what this team does. That being said, I'm somehow projected last place in the final standings based off this draft. So we're going to see what happens.
I think that also takes into account that DeAndre Hopkins is out. So it's basically you have one less man on your roster.
Yeah.
So I think once he's unsuspended, I think he'll boom right up.
I think so too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So next team I had on my list was Hard Knocks Life.
If we're doing every single team and it's going to take that long for one team.
I was just going to say we'll speed it up a little bit.
Okay, cool. Okay. I was just thinking that. I was like, this is going to take a while.
Yeah. So Hard Knocks Life. I'm going to scroll to find his team here. I had him graded out at a C+. Reason being is the deal. Joe Mixon, I think, is probably one of the weaker running back ones in the class. For some reason, the Bengals just don't like to pass him the ball. They don't involve him in that phase of the game, really. And then I think, he's got a lot of unknowns as far as Antonio Gibson. I think it's pretty clear the Commanders hate him, puts the ball on the ground. He can't stop putting the ball on the ground. Tyreek Hill, we don't know what kind of capacity he's going to play in Miami or if Jalen Waddle will be the bigger feature there. I know Waddle's dealing with a little bit of injury, but it seems like it's pretty minor. And then as far outside of that, he's got Aaron Rodgers, who we have no idea if he's going to put up the same kind of numbers as he always has. I expect him to be close just because he's a great player. But same with Deebo Samuel. If they go with Trey Lance, do they use him the same way that they did last year in that running back wide receiver hybrid role, which really boosted him above all these other receivers? I'm not so sure that's a guarantee at this point in time. So I got him at a C+.
Yeah, that and Brian Robinson is actually recovering pretty fast from his gunshot wounds over the weekend.
I think we should investigate Zach as an Antonio Gibson owner.
Yeah. But at the same time, like Brian Robinson he was spotted back in the team camp already, out of the hospital. So it must not have been bad.
Yeah.
So that probably decreases Antonio Gibson's value and helps Steve's team out a little bit. Michael Thomas is just a questionable. Is he going to stay healthy, or is he going to, let a paper cut ruin his season?
Right. Andy, what do you got?
I mean, I think you hit on a lot of them. The other thing I was going to bring up with Knox, last year he had quite a few touchdowns. Now I know obviously the Bills have a very good offense, but I feel like in the red zone, obviously Allen's going to eat in terms of rushing touchdowns and stuff. I think there's going to be some touchdown regression there. So I know a lot of people are really high on touchdown.
He's a big touchdown upside. Like he needs touchdowns for points. I think.
I just don't see him having a lot of catches and yards. He's more of a touch. I don't want to call him touchdown dependent because he does get some usage, But I think that's kind of something I noticed with the tight end there that wasn't brought up is he is going to be one that he either scores a touchdown and has a good week, or I feel like he doesn't score and it's going to be an okay week, but nothing too special. But otherwise. And I think Rodgers, my biggest question there is obviously he's going to produce. Like he's one of the top quarterbacks, but just like with some of the younger receivers and stuff, how's that going to gel? Because I could see, especially early on, Rodgers struggling a little bit of making connections with some of the receivers, but that's about all I had.
Perfect. Pat, any final thoughts on Team Hard Knocks Life?
I think a C grading is fair here. A lot of good options, but mostly more of like late round pick options. Nothing that stands out to me as fantastic. Just pretty average draft overall.
It depends on if Hill has a good connection with Tua. If Hill has a good connection like he does with Mahomes, like he did with Mahomes, I think that helps his team out a lot.
For sure.
It's just Tua is a question mark in my opinion.
Tua is the question mark of the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah. So next team we're going to talk about is Patrick's Mustache.
Great name.
This is your reigning champion we're talking about here. And unfortunately, I think he's going to be good again this year. I got him graded out an A for his draft performance. Yeah, I think, he took a chance making Jonathan Taylor the first $80 draft pick in our league history. We've never had anything higher than that. So that's a pretty bold move, but who knows if it pays off for him this year? We'll see. Andy, what do you think about Patrick's mustache?
So a couple things I want to bring up. First off, he has the Burrow/Chase stack. Now, you guys know in the past I've been one huge on stacks. I'm going to tell him, if they have a great game, he's set, especially, obviously if they connect on touchdowns. But I also could see, weeks where, if they have a bad game or a low-scoring game or the weather's bad or something, there are going to be weeks that he could potentially struggle there. The other thing I wanted to kind of bring up with him, I feel like a lot of his fluxes, in my opinion, were kind of questionable.
Very.
Sanders, obviously the Eagles, he has opportunity there, but the last few years they haven't really felt like utilized / he hasn't really taken off as a dependable, even flex starter. Scary Terry, I think he's still going to be productive. Wentz, you could argue, is he a better quarterback than Heineke? However you pronounce last year's quarterback. But then, they've also been talking a lot about Dodson's been in camp, as a wide receiver too, been doing a lot of good things. So I don't know how much, he's going to eat from him. I will say this, he has Robinson and Lazard kind of on his bench right now. I do think one of those breaks out as being a solid contributor, with Mahomes and Rodgers, they got to have somebody to throw to. So I got to give him a little bit of respect of having a couple options there. I have a high feeling that one of those is going to break out, but.
Yeah, his flexes are also questionable for me, along with his tight end. Anybody that I see with Chicago, outside of David Montgomery, I get kind of iffy on.
Good.
He is pretty much the only pass catcher outside of Darnell Mooney, though.
Exactly, but it's also in order for him to catch it, he needs to have a quarterback that throws it to him. And Fields hasn't really stood out yet to be.
I think it's going to be. I think it'll be a volume play for sure.
Oh yeah, it is. Obviously the Bucks D good, and then Evan McPherson. He's got. Literally. The Cincinnati, there was some. I had Burrow last year. There were some weeks where it was literally they were feasting, and then there's some weeks where Burrow might only have 2 touchdowns. But if those 2 touchdowns are to Chase, Jamar Chase, he's fine.
Yeah. Pat, final thoughts on Patrick's mustache? Speak about your mustache.
It's a great name. Great name for a mustache. I got a great mustache. I'll call that. I think an A is very fair, mostly because of how good his bench is. I think he has a very solid bench out of anybody in the league. My only concern is actually something that Andy brought up, which was the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase stack. Their record last year was 10-7, and they were not even close to having the net points beyond the entire league.
Right.
Do I think Joe Burrow is going to be angry because he lost that Super Bowl and he's going to come back as a great quarterback? Sure, maybe. I don't know if I want to take that bet, though. And to bet that with Jamar Chase, I just don't know if that's a good stacking choice for what he wanted.
Right.
That being said, I still think that they're going to produce very well. And I still think that overall, I would give him an A for his draft.
Yeah, Chase could very well have a sophomore slump. We don't know.
Yep.
Okay. So then the last team in Division Mitch is myself, Prestige Worldwide. Hit us up for any business endeavors. We're about it. So I'm going to stay a little bit silent, let you guys take your best shot, and we'll go from there.
You have usually a top 12 performing fantasy quarterback in Kirk Cousins. So, I mean, I think you just have good consistency there with quarterback. AJ Brown, I think he connects well with Jalen Hurts. I think that team has a solid offense this year. Outside of their running back game is kind of questionable. Travis Kelce, he's always going to produce, especially now with Hill out. Mahomes probably going to throw it a little bit more his way. But at the same time, he might be getting more double coverage specifically because of that reason. So might force Mahomes to have to look other places. Saquon Barkley, I could very well break out. Saquon Barkley could very well get injured again. Saquon Barkley could very, very well be on a horrible offense that just doesn't produce. And then Devin Singletary and Rashad Penny, those are more of those individuals that I think you need to see goal line work from them and hopefully get some goal line touchdowns. Because those offenses, Seattle is not going to be that great, in my opinion. And then Buffalo, there's just so much going on that you need him to score a touchdown in order for him to be a relevant pick. But the Bills' D is clutch. That's easily one of the best defenses in the league.
I would say, though, I looked at his bench, and he's got some decent players, there too. So, Colin's actually the one that I see him being a candidate for trading. He kind of just mentioned it too, but I think he's got some pieces to work with where he could upgrade. The other thing I was going to say, and this is just my opinion, and I'm probably dumb, but I absolutely hate the 49ers running attack. Seems like every year it's somebody different. They have injuries every year. I don't know what whatever Shanahan it is.
Kyle Shanahan.
Is it Kyle? I don't know what he did, but I swear a witch put a spell on him or something because their running backs can never stay healthy.
Is he related to Steve?
Their team can never stay healthy.
Yeah. But no, so that was one thing that, obviously Mitchell going into the year is the main guy there, but it seems like every year they go through injuries and somebody else leads them every year. And so that was just one thing that I'm not a huge fan of the 49ers for that reason. But the other thing, I got a hot take going back from last week. I don't think Kelsey's going to be a top 3 tight end this year. I think he's going to be top 12. Obviously, he's, but even without an injury, with his age and stuff, obviously he's going to have a lot of opportunities, but I think at some point he's going to break down. And I think this is the year that you start to see it. And I have nothing, statistically to back that, but I just have this feeling that he's going to be a top 12, but I don't think he's going to be a top 3 tight end this year.
That is what I call a hot take.
Get this man some sauce.
Take some points there, Pat, for hot takes.
Jesus.
Okay, well, that's one division.
Pat, what do you think, boss?
I would give this team a solid B in terms of draftability. I agree with Andy, though. I would give this team an A in terms of tradability. I think you have a lot of good pieces that you can trade with. I will say, though, I agree with Clay's take that Saquon Barkley is a ginormous question mark. And even though he's still high on the draft board, I think you're taking a great risk with Saquon, but still fair to draft him. So overall, I would just give this team a B.
Yeah. So I'll probably be harder on myself than you guys were, but I felt like this year, and, no excuses or anything, but I definitely did not prepare at all because I was on a beach the week leading up to the draft.
Humble brag.
So I kind of just listened to 4 podcasts the week of and went from there. So I felt like I didn't really have a chance to fall in love with one guy that I hammered, because usually you go into the draft, you have a guy that you want to get, your top dog. So I kind of felt like I just was working with whatever fell to me and not necessarily being as aggressive. So I think I grade myself out as a C-, probably C+ at best. But it's a huge question mark because between Saquon Barkley, AJ Dillon, Elijah Mitchell, Devin Singletary, Edmonds, and Penny. I mean, Penny and Singletary blew up down the stretch last year. So, if those guys stay healthy and they repeat what they did at the end of last year, then I could end up having, 3-4 running back ones or twos. And if they don't, then I have a bunch of scrubs and we'll get crushed every week. So I think it's a huge question mark.
I mean, Penny is downgrading from Russell Wilson to Geno Smith. So
right. But
that might take a little bit out some value from him. But if he becomes the main back and Kenneth Walker doesn't challenge him at all for touches, then yeah, he's going to be a solid running back.
Yeah.
You just got to stay healthy.
Yeah. So anyways, I guess let's rank the division. As far as mine, I have Patrick's mustache winning it. I have Worse Than Rutgers getting second, followed by Hard Knocks Life, and then myself in fourth place in that division. Andy, what do you got?
I mean, I literally have that. Like, I think
you put one team in the playoffs with one possibly squeaking in at the end.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, honestly, I have Pat making the playoffs, not for a spoiler, but I mean, since we're talking about this division, I think this is the year that Pat gets into the playoffs. So,
Pat, who do you think wins the division? Trick question. I know you're picking yourself.
You freaking know I'm picking myself.
I love it.
The thing that I love about Giz's team every single year is the fact that he always pays a ginormous amount for a running back, and that running back will tear his ACL every year without fail. That running back
only
is
thing
go
is
out.
Jonathan Taylor's been never been injured, so I just don't want to,
Oof, wouldn't that be something? Never injured, first year as the number one value, and he tears his ACL. You'd hate to see it.
Don't do that to the guy.
See it. So I think he's going to have a fault. I think he's going to have a really bad injury year. Even if Jonathan Taylor doesn't get injured, I think he still has a really bad injury year. I'm going to take that as my advantage, and I am going to soar to the top of the division, and I'm going to the playoffs.
Or Zach can finally get some luck.
Love the confidence. So let's move down to Division Creighton, and let's start with who had the best regular season record last year, the King.
That's true.
So I got the King graded at a B- this year. So he's really strong with a quarterback receiver stack again with Herbert and Keenan Allen. Mm-hmm. That's a fantastic stack to have. I think Michael Pittman is a really good candidate to be a breakout this year, especially with the quarterback upgrade. Where I kind of fault him a little bit is with James Conner. And I think Fournette will be solid just with the offensive line injuries. He's the recipient of a lot of short passes. But as far as Conner goes, I think we see a lot of touchdown regression. I don't think there's any way he gets that many touchdowns he did last year. I mean, that was what boosted his value the entire year. But I think he does have a steal on his bench in Hunter Renfrow. I think he still is going to be very relevant. But I just got to get in my jab. I'm a little bit salty that I only had $1 bids, and John decided to go ahead and nominate Tom Brady to the pick before me. So, Tom Brady should have been my quarterback. Thank you, John. I love you.
Yeah, I gotta take a step out real quick.
Yeah.
So, I literally in my paragraph put duck James Conner and the touchdown regression he deserves. Last year he stole so many touchdowns from me. I will never like that guy. I hope he doesn't score at all. Like, I can't stand him. But otherwise, I think Colin hit on a lot. I think Bateman and London are two guys we need to talk about a little bit. Bateman, I didn't see a lot last year, but I mean, the Ravens, besides Andrews, have to throw to somebody. I mean, he was a high draft pick. Was that 2 years ago? I don't remember. He's pretty young, but so I think there's potential there where he could break out. And then London, obviously, I mean, it's the Falcons that they're going to be down. They're going to be throwing, I would assume. I don't know how well Mariota can keep up throwing, but I think there's a lot of potential there. The other thing is Ridley. He's suspended indefinitely, isn't he? If I remember right. Like, we don't know when he's coming back. So, like, I think there's just a lot for London to be the main guy there, even though they're a terrible team. You have to like a top receiver on, a team like that. So I mean, overall, I actually, once again, I like his team. I think the stack, it's going to be boom or bust too, of if they have a great week, he could really go off. But, if they have, especially terrible weather with Denver or Kansas City or, something, there could be weeks that maybe they struggle and go to Eckler on the ground a little bit more. And those could be weeks that he maybe has lower weeks. But I think it's worth the risk in that case, with Herbert and Allen. But
yeah,
I think that's one of my more favorite quarterback wide receiver stacks.
Yeah. Yeah, I said, going back to Giz's pick really quick, I said that his stack is not the stack that you want to bet on. Like, I would never bet Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase going into next year being the stack. I would bet the mortgage, though, on Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen. I think Justin Herbert being so pissed off that they barely missed the playoffs last year is going to ignite a spark in him, as well as Keenan Allen, and we're going to see crazy numbers out of the Chargers. And I think they had a really good offseason too. And I would honestly bet that the Chargers make the playoffs this year. I think they are going to be the team to beat in their division, and John picking these two is such a great duo to pick. That being said, nothing on his team other than those two really shine as like this is awesome. That's just kind of mid-grade. So I would also give this team a B, just because he has two great picks and almost nothing else.
All righty. So next one we're gonna talk about is,
I like John's team. I give him an A.
An A. Let's go.
Yeah, he has good, just churn of the mill individual.
Okay, let's be honest. Can we really give the Jonathan Kingsley anything less than an A at life?
B plus.
I just gave him a B.
I mean,
A minus, B plus.
I feel like I might have just given John the first B of his life, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
I say A minus, B plus.
So
that's my range.
That's risky territory.
No,
So
I like it.
Next player on our list is the underdog, we'll say, to put it nicely, and that's Kittle Corn. Steve this year showing up to the draft with some swag. I got him rated at an A draft.
I like his team.
And yeah, I mean, he showed up. I think he watched that first podcast, heard Creighton call him Kansas, and lit a fire under his ass. So we saw him drop big bucks on Justin Jefferson, Josh Allen, Alvin Kamara, George Kittle, one of the probably top 5 tight ends this year. I think Steve actually has a chance this year to make the playoffs.
I would agree.
I truly do.
I would agree.
So Brian Robinson, that was an unfortunate turn of events for him.
But I think he'll be okay.
He might be. It's hard to know, but time will tell.
Yeah. I mean, if Breece Hall breaks out, like a lot of people think he will, I think Steve's set up to be a top team.
Yeah.
My only problem with Steve's draft is Brandon Cooks, but if you all know, he consistently has points, but I think he's not going to be able to produce what he has been in the past.
If he consistently gets over 10 points every week, looking at the rest of his stack on his team, like that's just what he needs.
Oh, absolutely. But the question of the hour is he going to consistently get 10 points? Because as a fantasy owner of Brandon Cooks, I can confidently tell you that won't happen. There are weeks where he could have 15 points and then follow that up with a 2-point performance. And again, some of that's his quarterback game, right? And
I'm higher on him than I am with Claypool.
I would agree.
Yeah.
No, I guess just a couple comments I have. I mean, Clay and I actually had this discussion a little bit in the chat of, is Kittle the number 2 or is it Ayuk, or how do those two? Because I mean, I think obviously we'd say Samuel's kind of the main, receiving threat there, but I don't know. Like Kittle, I mean, obviously I think he's been hurt the last couple of years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I've never owned
He's
him,
definitely a very run block heavy tight end.
But so like, I don't know, like a lot of people drafted him high, they always do, but I don't get the hype there as much, just because I don't know how it plays out between him and Ayuk for, targets there. The other thing I was going to bring up with the Jets, I know a lot of people are really high on Brees Hall. Carter, though, I don't remember what round they drafted him in. Was that last year or 2 years ago, whatever that was? But I also kind of wonder there, like, they put some draft picks into both guys, so I still see it being a committee. The Jets offense, I don't think is going to light up teams this year. Like, I don't think they're good. So I still just don't see the value there I don't think Brees Hall just takes that and runs as the only running back. Like, I see it being more of a 50-50 share. So it's going to limit both of their upside unless one of them gets hurt. But that's just kind of my opinion. And then Claypool, the only way I see him being really relevant is if Deontay Johnson is out for an extended period of time. He gets hurt all the time, but he, like, is hurt for one quarter and then comes back in. Like, as an owner last year, I learned that the hard way of, oh, he's out. And then, it's just a minor injury and he's right back in there. I don't know. I don't want to call him a baby, but he just seems like he's always banged up, but he always plays through it. But that's just kind of, I guess, some of the takes I had.
Yeah. So next team I had is the man who picked the division himself, Apollo Creed, the 2-time champion of our league. So we all know Christian McCaffrey's his guy.
100%.
Again, there's a lot of question marks with McCaffrey. I do think McCaffrey is a durable guy. A few of his injuries have just been kind of freak deals. So I do think he plays the majority of the games this year. He might miss a couple, but I think he'll be a little bit safer. But I have him graded a B+. I think CeeDee Lamb is pretty undervalued. Akers, I think, has a potential to be, a top 10 running back. But just, again, I am very, very hesitant coming off of an Achilles injury because we have not seen anybody come back off of one of those injuries and be dominant. It just has not happened. I mean, you had like Deontay Foreman. He's kind of relevant, but I mean, there's really no other examples. Most other guys disappear into the background. Mm-hmm. And he was just atrocious in the playoffs and when he came back early last year. So his saving grace is he does have Henderson as a little bit of insurance there.
Yeah. I would say that the Rams kind of figured out what their, like, what scheme worked for them. And that was when he was injured.
Yeah.
Now, does the offensive coordinator, does he run with that scheme still again, or do they go back to how they were when they had Todd Gurley, where they were more run heavy?
Right.
I think they still go more pass heavy.
I think so too. But he's definitely got a very up in the air receiving core. Juju, who knows if he's Pat's guy, and he's going to be putting up some numbers. Amari Cooper, again, if he's the only good target in Cleveland, he could be peppered with targets. Godwin, when he comes back, we know he's going to be. I think they'll work him in slowly compared to just rush him back and go full workload right away. But then again, if Thielen, I think he might be aging out a little bit, but if he can capture,
he's going to be their number 3. I think Thielen's going to be their number 3.
He could be moved down a little bit. Amon St. Brown, we'll see. Was last year for real? Is he that guy, or was it just because there was nobody else there? Opportunity or talent is kind of discussion.
I think his tradability, like we said with, Beery's team, there's a lot of tradability on this team. Wait, no, Colin's team has a lot of tradability. This team also has tradability. The only thing is if he keeps these people, he runs into the problem of who the hell do I start? Because
that's true.
All of them are around the same projections.
Right.
It's just, I feel like it's really hard. He doesn't have like set people like, yes, this is my starter for sure. He has all these people on his bench because he waited till the end of the draft to really start bidding on some of those wide receivers and picking them off. Granted, he has some solid breakout wide receivers, but at the same time, like, who do you roll with? It's not anybody that's going to like wow you.
Right.
The other thing was they call him Sun God. They drafted Williams. He's hurt or whatever, and I'm assuming he's coming back at some point in the season. From Alabama. I think he was at Alabama, but I think that's something to watch too. Of early on, I could see Sun God, going off, but I also wonder once Williams plays, how do those targets get distributed? Because, I mean, you guys can have your own opinions, but Jared Goff, I don't see him being able to support 2 wide receivers. So I don't know if Williams will overtake him or not. I mean, last year he was very good. I loved having him on my team at the end of the year last year, but I don't know if it's going to be sustainable long term.
Yeah. And then also thing is, like, I think McCaffrey stays healthy this year. It's just I think they have had to change their offensive scheme so much to where he is not the workhorse where they want him. They don't want him to be the workhorse that he was 3 seasons ago. They have too many. They have too many. They have too many good receivers. They have a quarterback that I think will be able to distribute it sufficiently enough. I think they go with Baker. I think that he was named the number one. So if you look at like Cleveland teams, like the running backs were good, but they weren't like ones that were going to be that game changing running back every single week. Chris McCaffrey, we know he can do it, but I don't think they make him the workhorse that he used to be.
Yeah.
It's just not smart on their part if they want to keep him for the long run.
Pat, what do you think? B plus? Do you agree or no?
I'm actually going to give him a B minus.
Same.
I think I agree actually 100% with Clay's take. I think he has a lot of tradability, but at the same time, he doesn't have a lot of tradability. And if he keeps these same guys, there's a lot of numbers that he's going to lose because they're all going to be the same number as far as points. I also think that this is probably Creighton's weakest draft.
Yes.
I've seen him draft the last 2 years, and he usually goes for those high number values at the very beginning. I feel like all he did was get Christian McCaffrey, and that was it. He did nothing else with it. And Christian McCaffrey, knock on wood, doesn't get injured again, but I think he will get injured again. And
I don't know, Pat. I saw him cross off that Post-it note several times.
Yeah, that was I bet you $20 that was tic-tac-toe. He didn't have anything. He did that to psych everybody out. He doesn't got no pad or pencil or whatever.
Shots fired.
But
he's probably watching film for his actual job.
Yeah, exactly. He's doing something not fantasy football draft related. I just think B minus. I mean, it's an okay team. I expect more from Creighton, but Creighton's going to pull something out of his butt and probably make the playoffs because that's what Creighton does.
I think there's only one way to settle this debate, and that's Creighton needs to produce a picture of the card.
Yes, I need a
draft
card.
Night.
Give me the card and I'll shut up.
We don't know if he was playing tic-tac-toe, watching film, marking off plays, or if he actually prepared for the draft and had a list of players that he was targeting.
Yeah. It's also going to be hard for Creighton this year. I think he's in a division where like he can't slip up anymore. Like the last 2 or 3 seasons, he's been in a division that, I mean, it was with me, Zach Beery, and Steve. And we know how Zach's luck was last year, and we know how Steve's luck has been the last 2 or 3 seasons.
True.
I mean, he hasn't had divisions like it was last year where there was 3 teams that made the playoffs where they just absolutely killed everyone, and then they just, went round for round when they played each other. Yeah. This is one where Creighton needs to take advantage of the out of division games because I think it's going to be tough running for him.
Yeah, that's fair. So the last team in this division is going to be AFC West. And I think that's an aptly named team because he does have a lot of guys from the Chiefs, the Raiders, and the Broncos.
I mean, we did talk beforehand that this is going to be a heavy offensive division.
It will be, but he doesn't have any of the Chargers, and I think they're one of the top. I think they're probably the best, if not second best, offense in the division. So, but anyways, I think getting Pat Mahomes for $13 was a heck of a start. For him. I mean, I think Pat's actually going to do a lot better than people think he will. I know I'm a Chiefs fan, and then I think Najee Harris. The Steelers say they want to manage his load. I think that's just coach speak. They're going to do what they always do, and that's run their running backs into the ground. I mean, he led the league.
Didn't you hear that he had what is it called? Like lip frank?
He had a Liz Frank sprain, which is the joints in your foot, which is actually, I believe that was what Derrick Henry fractured too. So, that's a very tough injury. He's a big back. We see a lot of bigger running backs where their feet just can't hold up to the amount of force they're putting through them. So, we'll see, though. We'll see. I think Devontae Adams.
Pierce goes off, though.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are high on him.
Yep. So he does have, like I said, he does have some good players. Damian Pierce was a good steal, $4 for a starting running back. I don't care if he's on a sucky team. $4 is $4. So,
and Devontae Adams and Darren Waller, I think he got their number 1 and number 2 on the Raiders.
Yeah,
I mean, and it's Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr does have a good season this year. I don't think it's like a top 5, but I think he's top 10 quarterback. So
I don't know about you guys, but I think Jerry Jeudy and Jalen Waddle are kind of one and the same players as far as their opportunity and situation they're in.
Yeah.
We don't know what kind of connection they're going to have with their quarterbacks. Jeudy has Sutton. Waddle has Tyreek Hill. Who is that quarterback going to distribute the ball to more? I think that's going to be really a determining factor in how Pierce does.
I like his team though. I
do too. I gave Pierce a B+.
Pierce, or you mean
who's AFC West?
Oh, that's Alexander. Sorry.
Oh, Alexander. Okay, I give Alexander. I thought that was Pierce the whole time.
No, Pierce hurts, don't it?
No.
You're right. Pierce wouldn't draft that well. Just kidding.
Hey, Pierce had a good team.
He does have a good team.
Well, the only thing
Alexander, I'm giving you a B+, buddy.
The only thing I will say, I agree with a lot of what you said, but his bench, I don't feel like there was anyone on his bench from what I remember that I was excited about. Like the only one that could, he's one of those guys that he'll either go on or he's on and he'll go 5 for 189 and 3 touchdowns, or he's a 1 for 10 and just nothing happens type of guy. And then Geno Smith was announced the starting quarterback. So obviously, Wilson's not there anymore. I mean, I just don't know if Geno Smith can do DK Metcalf and him and them both be relevant, So
yeah.
I don't know. That was like the one thing I noticed. Like his starting lineup's good, but he just like if he has an injury or two, I really don't know what he does because I don't really think there's any guys on his bench that I'd be comfortable, just as like a injury fill-in or a bye week fill-in, and obviously throughout the season things change, but that was like the one thing I noticed on his was I think you have to look at the whole roster, not just the starting lineup, and I wasn't really impressed with his bench, but.
Pat, any final thoughts on Alexander's team?
I give him a B.
Yeah, I think
I have an A- for him.
I'm not meaning this, degradingly, but I think he's probably got the worst bench in the league.
Yep.
So, 100%.
100%.
He's got a great starting lineup.
Yep.
A great starting lineup, but he's got no depth.
Yep. So
but if that starting lineup stays healthy, that's all that matters.
Exactly. If the injury bug stays away from him, he's gonna be all right.
That and if his bye weeks with some of his players, if they all line up,
true,
like where he has 3 or 4 of them, then he might lose some games there too. So it just depends.
Yeah. Yep. So as far as that division goes, I think, and this is going to be a hot take, I think Steve actually beats Creighton in this division, and Steve wins his first divisional title.
I agree. Unless Creighton can make some really good trades happen this year, I think he does not make the playoffs.
So I think, Steve takes it. I think Creighton will figure it out and finish second in this division, be on the bubble for the playoffs.
I think he's going to finish third, to be honest.
That's what I think too.
All right.
That's what I think too. I think Alexander gets second. It's a toss between Alexander or possibly John.
Yep. I think all 3 of those teams are in the mix.
Yeah.
See, I had Creighton, and my thought was with Creighton, he always trades. Like there's always something going through his head. Will
he trade with you, Andy?
No.
There won't be an Andy Creighton trade this year?
No.
Are you willing to stand by that?
Yeah, I can guarantee that.
See, he has great tradability at wide receiver, but that's
it.
So, I'm going to say this because I love Creighton to death, but I know he's done it to me in the past. He'll send a trade where it's a 3 for 1 or whatever, and I absolutely hate people that do those.
That's what he's going to try with his wide receivers.
Yep.
And it's okay, if anything, at least just pick the bottom 2 people on my bench and just make it a 3 for 3 offer. To me, that just pisses me off more than anything because I'm why are you wasting my time?
He needs someone's second high tier running back to get injured to make a trade with them.
But I had Creighton. I think he'll find a way to win the division. I hate to admit this, but I just have a lot of respect for every year. It just seems like he's consistently, in the playoffs. He's just good at fantasy football. I know they do a lot of, talking and Brecken, and I know he reads a lot and whatnot. So I have to respect that, and until he proves me wrong, I have to give him the benefit of the doubt. I had Steve second. I think he makes the playoffs. Mm-hmm. I had John third, and then I had Alex last, just because right now, he has his starters, but without that bench, injuries are going to happen throughout the year. But he doesn't even have guys on his bench to make trades to fill in for injuries and stuff. So I don't know. I wasn't as high on Alex just for that reason of I just don't felt like I just didn't feel like he had much to work with in terms of trying to trade to make his team better. But that was just kind of, I guess, my rankings. But
Fair enough. So our last division was picked by our very own shirtless Andy, who is not shirtless tonight. Just to remind everybody, he's not just sunburnt. Okay, it's actually an orange shirt. So let's start with Zeke and Destroy. That is Clay's team. So I gave you an A, and I thought this is possibly one of the best or the best division in our league this year going into
easily.
the season.
Yes, draft wise.
Yeah,
it's a tough division.
I mean, Clay, he started off the draft really well by getting Ramondre Stevenson for $4 and Ezekiel for $25. I mean, everybody's talking about how Zeke is washed, how it's, going to be a 50-50 split, but I think until we see that it's not, I think you have to assume that Zeke is going to be the guy. So that's a solid start to the draft. And then he went and added who's guaranteed to be a top 2 tight end, I think, in Mark Andrews. Aaron Jones is going to be a huge beneficiary of Devontae Adams leaving Green Bay.
Both of those running backs, I think, are going to be great because the Packers need both of them on the field.
Yep. So
I think Aaron Jones gets more receiving work than Dylan. Dylan's probably going to get more of the red zone, but Jones is going to, be receiver / running back.
Very much so.
Yeah.
So I think Clay has a very solid stable. He took a really, really big flyer on Trey Lance, but that's, I assume, to back up Dak Prescott. Is that correct? Yeah. So if Trey Lance pops and turns out to be the next Jalen Hurts, I mean, Clay's all of a sudden got an even better quarterback too. So
yeah,
I think Clay's got a good team.
That, and I like how I have DJ Moore on my bench.
Yeah,
I think that's a good solid bench player to have just to be on the safe side. If something happens with one of those guys that don't pan out.
Yep.
Yeah, super solid.
Yeah.
The only thing I will say, and I just had this in my notes, I absolutely hate the Patriots backfield. Just like another one, kind of like the 49ers, where it's always a committee and it doesn't seem like there's ever anybody that really takes off. Now, I don't remember. Do you have Stevenson or do you have?
I have Ramondre Stevenson. He's got more of the upside, it seems like, because of James White retiring.
And I would agree with that. But yeah, I don't know.
And if that is the case and it's so inconsistent every weekend and week out, just plop in DJ Moore.
Well, and I think did you pay $4 for him, or am I thinking?
Oh yeah, I paid $4 for him. No one.
Well, like that's the other thing I have to take in consideration. It's not like you paid a lot for him or anything, but
yeah.
I don't know. I'm gonna disagree on the Zeke thing. Like, I'm not saying that Pollard takes that backfield over because I don't think he does, but I think you're gonna see a lot more mix of Pollard in there. I mean, I don't know. Zeke just the last few years just hasn't.
He hasn't produced.
For what they drafted him to be, I don't think he's lived up to what they are expecting of him. I think Pollard has a ton of, he's shown that he can produce when he's given carries. So I think it's just going to kind of be a split there too, but that's just kind of my take. And
I didn't draft him to be my number one running back. That was the thing. Yeah. I drafted him because I knew he'd just be a value running back.
Yeah. And then Jacobs, it's another one of
value running back.
But I just
not one that's going to be number one.
I just don't know if he'll even. I honestly don't know if he keeps the job. Like, that was my question with him of, will he actually still be their main running back at the end of the year? But I think for what you have for your team, like, it's a good risk to take him because you still have Aaron Jones as your main running back, and so like I actually really liked your team, but those are just some of the takes I had of some of your bench guys.
And I have the same. I have the same feelings with those two running backs. They could show some great signs of being the running backs that I want them to be, but considering that this is a PPR league, even if they get 10 touches, like, that's points right there.
Yeah.
And out of those 10 touches, what if they break off for like a 10, 15-yard run? Like that's an additional point right there. Like, I don't need them to be rock stars. I just need them to be a consistent 15-point score, if that.
Yeah, Clay, I'm going to be honest. I think you had the best draft out of everyone. You were my number one draft going into everything. I think everything is solid. The only two things I don't like about your draft was the Steelers defense and Harrison Butker, but that's not where your points are going to come from. Your points are going to come from everything else. And I think you're very running back heavy, but at the same time, you have the wide receivers you can sub out if you need to. So I give you an A+.
Thank you. I like my team too. I feel good about it. but I'm in a really hard division.
True.
You're in a
So,
terrible
You get
division,
one free one.
but at the same time, like watching your division matches are going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yep. So the next team in the division is Hertz Donut. So I just really want to again reiterate, maybe we need some more permanent team names just so I don't get confused on who's who in the league again.
This is Pierce.
Okay, Pierce. You stole my guy, man, Dalvin Cook. But I think it was a great pick. So you have two, I think, top 5 running backs, Dalvin Cook, Austin Eckler.
Mhm.
Dobbins, if he comes on, he's not going to get 100% sure of the running back work right away. He's got to come back. He's got to load manage for a little bit, I think. I gave Pierce an A just because his starting running back stable was so strong. I think, Hurts is a top tier quarterback as well. He can do it with his legs. We haven't seen him arm as much, but we know he can. And then
Apparently he's looked really good in the preseason. He's had a good fantasy QBR.
Here's the only problem I see with his team is no number one receiver, no established number one receiver. And I think, again, maybe one of the worst benches in the league. I mean, there's absolutely no depth there as far as people I would trust.
It just depends.
There's a lot of dart throws.
Kenneth Walker, that's a big question mark.
Does he Kenneth Walker
take the starting role, or what does it do in committee? It's just it's questionable.
Yep. James Cook.
I love his starting team outside of his wide receiver one.
Yep. 100%.
I think James Cook has a good year, but at the same time, it's Buffalo.
I could probably talk myself into bumping his to a B, just because of the lack of receiver in depth.
Yeah, he's banking on getting points from Cook and Eckler.
Yep.
If you would have had Madison on his bench, I'd feel a lot better. But he doesn't have Madison on his bench.
Cook's going to miss at least 2-3 games every year.
Yeah, and that could be the deciding
question on that, though, because I'm going to bring it up. There's been talks. Do you think Madison actually finds somewhere to get traded? Because, I mean, I was like looking and like I know he wants to get traded, but I'm like, I don't know what teams need a running back that would be willing to give up like draft capital right now, because a lot of the teams that maybe could take a running back are rebuilding. So why would they, give up, a draft pick when they could just draft a guy next year?
Mm-hmm.
So that was something I just wanted to kind of bring up since you kind of brought him up. Otherwise, I'd put in my notes, I think Dalvin Cook / Eckler, I think that there's so much potential there that they can make up for, not having a wide receiver one or kind of lost.
He's banking on those being his scorers.
So I'm not as worried with his on that, because I think he has so much firepower and then Hurts with the rushing upside, as a quarterback, he could also go off. So I don't worry as much with him in terms of, that final flex / his bench, because I feel like he's got a lot of firepower, which to make the playoffs, and then I don't know how to win in the playoffs, but I've been told you need to have some guys that can actually score points. But
he's just, if one of those top running backs, either Cook or Eckler, gets hurt or goes out for a couple games, that's going to really affect his team, because those are his money makers, those bread makers, essentially.
I would agree.
Hurts is going to do his thing. He's going to be consistent. Dobbins could very well break out. Dobbins could get hurt and not play.
Yeah.
He's just,
what do you think?
He's an X factor.
I think that out of everyone in this division, I think Pierce's team is the weakest.
Ooh.
And I think the problem I have with Pierce's team is that if Eckler gets injured, he's done for. If Dalvin Cook gets injured, he's done for. If Dobbins gets injured, he's done for. He has maybe not so much Dobbins, but like you get what I'm saying. Like he doesn't have any support. There's no
injury is magnified on his team more than it is somebody else who has depth.
Yes, I think if his team is healthy all year, he could do really, really well, and he can make some trades to kind of soften that blow a little bit. But at the same time, if his team is not healthy all year, I think he's in trouble.
And we also know that Eckler and Cook have injury histories.
They do.
Yes, and
Dobbins.
Yes, and for that reason, I'm giving him a B-. If I think he could easily end up with a team of an A if he makes the right moves in the season, but going into week 1, I give his team a B-.
Fair enough. So
that is a hot take.
Next team is Creed's Worm Guys. I really don't understand this team name. Does anybody know the inside joke behind that?
No
Couldn't
idea.
tell
He just
ya.
gets creating scraps for players. I don't know.
He's got to get fed by like mama bird or something. I don't know. It's interesting. We need to know the backstory.
Mhm.
Brecken, call into the show. Show your face. So, I actually think Brecken had the best draft in the league. I got him at A+. So let's kind of talk about that for a second. Where did his team go? There it is. So they always say when you're going into a draft, if you want a guy, especially a top tier guy, take the first one nominated off the board, because people aren't necessarily, they're not done pulling out their wallets from their pocket yet. You can get some early steals for cheaper. I think Derrick Henry is a good example of that. I mean, $66. Yeah, he was injured last year, but the guy's a freak and very much has the potential to be a top 3 running back this year.
I don't think they use him as much though.
We'll see, and that could be the case too. But
because that offense could go kaput. They don't have a wide receiver that can get them a first down if they need one real quick.
Right.
So that's the only thing.
Yep. I think Derrick Henry gets fed again this year. I think the man goes off. Javonte Williams was one of my favorite players going into the league. I felt like Brecken and I went head to head on a lot of guys this year. And Javonte Williams could end up being a top 5 back as well. We saw the talent last year. He led the league in, I believe it was yards after contact, forced missed tackles. I mean, the guy straight up performs. He can catch passes. He can run between tackles. He can run outside. He can do it all. They brought back Melvin Gordon, but they paid him $2 million.
I raised this. Now that he has a better quarterback, they're going to throw the ball a little bit more than what they
I think that opens up the run more, actually.
I think it does,
right.
Yes, but to an extent. I don't think they're going to have to rely as heavy on the run game, and I think he got a lot of those. He breaks off a lot of those runs because they just had to rely on the run game so much.
Yeah, I think Javonte Williams will be one of the elite running backs in the league for years to come.
I think he's very underrated.
Yeah, pending if he doesn't get injured.
Yep.
Right.
Stephon Diggs, that's again solid. So just looking at his team, I think he got 2 first-round players in Derrick Henry and Stephon Diggs, and an early second-round player in Javonte Williams. So that's pretty good start to your team. Now, outside of that, Lamar Jackson, again, depending on if he can stay healthy, I think he's a top 5 quarterback. Pollard, again, if he eats into some of Zeke's time, that's going to be an issue as well.
Pollard's a good flex play. I think Pollard's just a good flex play regardless. I just don't like Olave.
It is interesting because Brecken's usually the running back heavy guy, right? And this year, I don't think you see that quite so much. He's got his top 3 guys, which he always tries to establish. But outside of those guys, there's a little.
I don't like.
Forrest is pretty bare.
I don't really like. Yeah, if something happens, like he has no one on his bench that I really like.
Yeah, I like Devontae Parker. He's number 1 receiver in New England, I think. And I do like Pat Freiermuth. I think he's a really.
He's a good tight end. He's a good tight end.
He's gonna give Pepper a target as well.
Yeah.
So, Andy, Pat, what do you think?
I actually really like Brecken's team. I think it's a really solid team, and he had a really good sneaky draft. Like, I didn't realize how good his draft was until we were done with everything. I was like, holy smokes, how did he get these players? I actually kind of disagree with you. I actually kind of like his bench. It's not sexy by any means, but it's definitely a bench that you can get the job done. I give him an A. It's not as good as Clay's team, but still really solid team.
I mean,
KJ Osborne could very well be the number 2 wide receiver in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Devontae Parker, number 1 wide receiver at Patriots. It's just how limited is he because that offense isn't exactly like a full-powered offense. It's more of a grind you out type of offensive set. That's just how Belichick is. Now that he doesn't have Tom Brady. Romeo Doubs could very well be a breakout wide receiver for Green Bay.
Yes, he really could.
Yeah, but I'm saying this. They very well could be. They very well could be.
Right, and I think that's kind of what Brecken went into.
He has tradability if they break out. That's for sure.
Yes, absolutely. And also, I didn't realize Mike Davis moved to Baltimore.
Yeah, just
recently. That must have just went over my head at some point. But that's a solid pick for him.
Except Mike Davis sucked last year.
He did suck last year. He was not fantastic, but I think under Baltimore, he might be better.
Yeah. The
But
only thing
didn't
is if Gus Edwards comes back healthy, I think Mike Davis moves down to number 3 running back on that team.
they signed Kenyon Drake too today, didn't they?
They did sign Kenyon Drake today.
So then that's the other thing I was going to bring up with that of I just don't know how their running backs are going to play out.
Yeah, but he does have Gus Edwards on his IR. So
Okay, I gotta bring this up because I'm salty. Was it because of COVID? Did we have two IR spots last year, or am I miss?
yeah,
Yes.
Because I had literally that was my second one I was going to throw on IR as like a a later season stash. Then I realized we only had one IR spot, so got to give props to Brecken for putting him in his IR because I had that idea, but I could only use one. But the other thing, I learned my lesson, and I think this just needs to be thrown out there. I got off the Kadarius hype train. Last year he had that one monster game, and like I kept him on my bench because you saw that game and you're like, well, he has the potential. He's very athletic, but it's been shown that he's been injured most of the time too. I don't know. I just want to throw that out there because I know a lot of people are giving crap on it, but I am off of that Kadarius hype train. I just, especially with his health, I just don't see him staying healthy, and I don't see him being a consistent player for the Giants. But
got to be available to be productive.
Yeah.
Exactly. But
I think he still has a great team though. It's an A quality team for sure.
Yeah.
So then the last team, it was sticking to raising corn, aka Corn Kid. We're gonna talk about Andy's team. Andy, I'm sorry we made you sit here and listen to all this other BS before we got to talk about your team.
Look at the bedtime.
What do you think about your team, man?
I'm getting last in the division. I obviously won't make the playoffs if I'm last in the division.
The thing is, though, you might have a slight chance. I think this division could potentially put 3 in the playoffs.
I do too.
I don't know.
It's that good, I think.
I don't hate my team and I don't love it. I didn't do like any prep this year. Like I literally didn't read any articles, didn't watch any podcasts or nothing. Like most years, I won't lie, like I read a ton or watch, podcasts or videos of people talking about people. Like this year with life going on, I just like didn't.
But the thing is, like, you don't have like a wow player on your team or like someone is going to be your stud, but you have a lot. You have no holes in your team.
That's what worries me though, because like, okay, I'm a depth guy. We have this discussion every year, and like I feel like I've got okay depth, but I also worry like if you get into the playoffs, I'm just going to do what I do every year. I'm going to get in as a 5th or 6th seed if I would actually be lucky. And then I'm not going to do anything because I'm not going to have that firepower that a lot of the other playoff teams have. I mean, I don't know. I don't think my draft was terrible, and I have notes on everybody if you want to talk about anybody specific. But there's a few guys I overpaid, and I'm going to just flat out admit, Jaguars running back. Was it Colin that I got in a bidding war with or somebody? I don't remember who it was. I got in a huge it was somebody I got a bidding war with, but like at that point there weren't any other running backs I was excited about, and I had money, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go get a running back. I feel like receivers you can kind of find on the waiver a little bit easier, so I'm just gonna throw that out there. I know I paid too much for him, but
he could very well go off though. You just don't know.
Yeah, I actually rated you a B as far as draft grade. Yeah, I mean, like Clay said, you don't have anybody that makes me go wow. But I think you have a lot of guys who you look at them and you say, oh, I'm not sad I ended up with him at all. Like there's nobody you plug in your lineup and you're like, man, that sucks. I have to start this guy. So I really like that. And, Madison's going to pop off for a couple top 10 weeks, at some point this year. So yeah, I think you saw roster.
And like you said, Dotson's having a pretty good camp right now.
Yeah.
AJ Greenwald, he's always boomer bust now. Just because of his age, he might pop off for the first 6 games just because Hopkins isn't going to be out there. Yeah. And Melvin Gordon, you have that reassurance just on the slight chance if Javonte Williams gets hurt.
The other thing, and I was kind of glad I got him, I think Gallup's going to, with Prescott, being the wide receiver too when he comes back. I think they've announced he's already out week 1, but that was like one of the guys that I was like, oh, nobody drafted him. I'm going to throw him in my IR spot because I feel like there's not a lot of risk there of, he could come back and pop off and, as a wide receiver too, be a good, flex player for me. So that was kind of why I went and put him on my IR spot. But so I tried to be a little bit strategic of, looking for things like that. I don't know.
Unless
Sky Moore could very well replace Hill.
Yeah. Yep.
Never know.
Pat, what do you think?
F.
Over under a B?
F. Terrible.
F.
He's going back to the bottom of the hill this year. He's
That's
not.
fine.
He's not living. F.
Yes.
Big ol' F, Andy.
So with that
Portillo's
being
bowl
said-
winner right over here.
With that being said, give me who wins this division, Pat.
Well, it's not Andy.
Anybody but Andy. Okay.
Anybody but Andy. I love you, buddy. Yeah. So, in all honesty, in this division, I think Clay wins. I think Brecken gets second. Both of them go to the playoffs.
I think whoever wins the division doesn't perform in the playoffs, though.
Ooh,
it might be like what
that's
happened.
a spicy take.
Because that happened with John last year. John won his
Yeah.
division, and that was a pretty solid division, but he lost first round
That could
or
be.
second round.
Yeah, but part of that I think has to do with Eckler dropping off.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Good point.
Like he really just had bad luck going into the playoffs. I think if Eckler stayed and was healthy and produced well, he probably the championship would be a lot different looking.
Clay, who do you got winning this division, buddy?
Who do I have?
Who do
What?
I?
No, Clay. Who do you have?
Oh,
winning
Clay.
this
Sorry.
I think it's either between. Oh God, it's a toss up between three of us. I like Pierce's team, but his is X Factor type of a team. I'm just gonna say Brecken's gonna win the division because I don't want to jinx myself.
division? Fair enough. Andy, who you got?
So my order, I had Brecken.
Okay.
I feel like okay, and I'm just gonna go through mine because I'm gonna guess and I'm gonna do whatever I want. But Pierce, I had second. I feel like Pierce is gonna pull something, some kind of trade. Like Pierce is always pretty active trading too. And then I had Clay, and then I put me at the bottom. I don't know. I'm not as high on my team as some of you guys might be, but I don't know. I think we've kind of touched on it though. I do think it's a tough division. I know a lot of people hated me when I drafted this division, but
No, I think it was good. I think this is one of the most even years we've had as far as drafts go. I think it was pretty solid for most people. So, okay, we're gonna go lightning round here.
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, I'm picking Brecken, in case you guys didn't know. So, lightning round. We're gonna start with you, Andy. Okay. Give me who wins the league this year.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I haven't really thought too much of it. I think I don't know why, but I have a feeling that Steve pulls something out. Like I know we've given Steve so much crap. I know he's kind of, been the bottom of the barrel, but I like his team and
I want to.
I don't know. I feel like
I want a championship-less team to win.
So I want to pull. I'm going to pull for Steve. I think Steve's got the.
You got the juice. Clay, who do you think wins the league? One word.
I'm gonna go with Pierce.
Okay, Pierce. Pat, who do you
He
got?
squeaks into the playoffs and then wins.
I'm gonna give it to Clay.
Okay. So
man.
I think I'm gonna pick. I think I gotta go with Brecken on this one. I think he's pretty.
Brecken was my second choice.
Yep. He'll be on the waiver wires at 4 a.m.
Yep.
Picking up the guys who you didn't bid on. So.
Yep. Also, before we move on, I want everyone to know, because it was not talked about much in the chat, but I do have the Scrophie.
Nice.
Yay!
I did.
So
I picked it up. I picked it up from Steve. It is currently in my living room, well on display, so everyone can see it.
Okay.
I will.
We just need a signature and then a photo of you holding it in some fashion. That's very
yeah. There'll for the people at home, there will be a graphic about right here with both of those right there. Yeah.
Love it. Okay, speaking of Scrophies, second lightning round. Who gets last? Andy?
I say me.
You could say you.
Honestly, I don't know. I think we've talked about it, but I think our division's going to be tough. We're going to beat each other up. So our division, it's going to come down to how you perform in other divisions. And, I think there's a lot of potential for, whoever gets last in our division to kind of be the guy that gets last. And I think it could be me. Or because are we talking about regular season or playoffs?
The whole shebang. Who gets the Scrophy? You?
I'm still gonna stick with it. But
okay. Clay, who gets last?
Dang, you put me on the spot. I was still looking at some things.
Pat, who do you think gets last? We'll come back to you.
I think Pierce is going to get last. I think Pierce is going to have.
That's a hot take.
That is
Pierce,
a hot take.
Take that hot take and shove it.
He has two really good running backs.
I love Pierce like a brother. I do not think he had a good draft. I think he has a good team. I do not think he has a good draft. And I don't think he's going to be able to trade as well as he wants to because of his draft. I also say the same thing about Creighton. I think it's very possible we could see Pierce and Creighton at the bottom of the league this year because they really don't have a lot to work with. So, but Creighton also does pretty decent to not get last place, which is why I'm giving it to Pierce.
Hey, why is Pierce's team name not Too Many Cooks in the Kitchen, by the way?
Because he has a weird affinity towards Jalen Hurts.
But he's got both the cook guys, so I think Too Many Cooks would be fantastic.
Yeah. So. He dropped the ball.
Pierce, I'm sorry I'm picking on your team name. Okay. I think who's going to get last this year, if I had to pick somebody right now, I think it's got to be between Andy and I, if we're being honest here. So I'm probably going to give it to Andy because I can't pick myself to get last. That's bad juju. So Andy, I love you, buddy. Thank you for coming on today. But I'm setting the bar low for you.
The hill. It's fine.
It's just a shorter hurdle to clear to achieve success this year. Clay, who do you got?
You mentioned bad juju, and so this made me think of the person I think gets last. But this person has Juju Smith-Schuster on his team, which is Creighton Reed, and I think Creighton gets last. He's one injury away from just absolutely being horrendous.
So who's that injury if he's going to be horrendous?
Oh, Christian McCaffrey.
You think if McCaffrey goes down?
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that.
If McCaffrey goes down, he is done. He has nothing. He has nothing that's going to say. He has nothing else on his team that's like, wow, that guy's a stud. Yeah, McCaffrey's that stud. But if McCaffrey's out or he just doesn't perform like he usually does, he's SOL.
Hot take. I like it.
No, it's not a hot take. I thought he had a horrible draft. Sorry, Green, but I thought you did.
He did. He absolutely did. That's why I have both him and Pierce in the bottom of the league. They just don't have any sustainability.
I like Pierce's team against Creighton's in that game though. If they have to go against, if you look at the starting lineup, I like Pierce's more.
Fair enough.
Okay, there you have it, boys. Yep. So that being said, let's go ahead.
That is just a snapshot right now.
Yeah, that's right now.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Who knows? Based on once we get 1 week played, players' positions change on their depth charts and performances impact the game, and so we'll see what happens. But as of right now, that's I think where we sit. So let's go ahead and wrap up that, and we'll move on to our Mount Rushmore draft.
A solid hour.
I know it was a grind, but hey, was that not fun talking about the actual season?
That was fun. That was fun.
Yeah,
I'm just glad I didn't get shit on. That's all that I wanted.
You did not.
That was my biggest nerve going into the draft. I was like, just don't draft horribly because then you're gonna have to defend yourself on the podcast.
That's okay.
So, I was expecting to get shit on more, and nobody. I mean, you guys shit on me a little bit, but I was waiting for it.
Dude, we're in a
Andy.
good,
I want you to know
we're in a good division.
Andy, I want you to know that I do want you to succeed, but I do not want you to win the Portillo's Italian Beef Bowl. If you and your team just want to stay at the bottom of the hill for that matchup,
I think we have to give hey, you remember we talked about grit grades, Pat?
Yeah.
I think we gotta give Andy a freaking A for having the balls to draft the guys for his division that he drafted.
Oh yeah, he gets an alpha for sure. He gets an alpha grade
for sure. I mean, he went out there in the first round without question. Was like, Pierce, I'm calling you out. I want you in my division. Then he comes back and he says, you know what? Brecken, you've won a title too. I want you in my division.
Well, I didn't get to pick Brecken, to be honest.
He was your last guy?
He was given to me.
Okay. Clay. But also Clay has the trophy. Clay's always solid. So I mean, Andy, there's other guys in the league throwing a fit about, who's in
Creighton chose the wimps. Creighton tried to get the easy way, and then he shits on himself by having a horrible draft.
And Andy's just like, no, I respect this. Balls to the wall, man.
Yeah.
So Andy,
Creighton tried to get the easy way out.
Yeah.
Creighton had in the very first divisions that were drafted out that everyone threw a fit. I thought Creighton had a better division, like favorable division.
I just mainly wanted Pierce because like ESPN on the history app, it like tells you who's your worst record against. Mine is actually Pierce, so that's why I picked him. I'm not afraid, and like I
By
don't
the
know,
way,
I just want to go after him. Like
those are not accurate either.
or
just
not?
so you know.
Okay, I didn't
No,
know how
because
accurate.
it loses track of when we switch ownership on teams or whatever else.
Okay, well, Pierce has been in the league. He's not an original, but I think he was his
No.
second year, isn't he?
Yeah.
So it would be fairly accurate, though, then.
Yeah.
But either way, I was like, I just saw that, and I was like, I want him. And then, I don't know. I really wanted Pat in my league. I think that would have been so much fun. Like, I wish
Next year, boys. Next year, we need to make it happen.
Oh, well.
Alrighty. So let's move on to our Mount Rushmore draft. We're going to be doing dog breeds. I think this first round should fly pretty quickly.
I think this whole thing should fly pretty quickly.
I'm hoping. I'm hoping quickly.
So,
Pat,
you keeping track of this?
I can't wait to take the golden doodle away from Pat.
Oh my god, I'll be so mad.
Okay, so let's start with
Our
let's go first.
Guest speaker for sure.
Guest speaker Andy. All right, you're up first.
I got to go lab because that's what I have. Like, if I don't, she'll kill me in my sleep. So,
okay, so Andy's got Labrador retrievers.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go Clay next. You guys are in this kind of a orientation on my screen.
Dang, Pat. Sorry, I hate to burst your bubble, but I'm gonna go with the golden retriever. Actually, Airbud.
Okay.
Airbud
for
great pick. I'm gonna go with golden doodle.
Okay. Shocker. It's like you own a couple of them.
Shout out to Mavis and Walter.
Yeah. I bet you I know what Colin's gonna go with.
Obviously, gotta go Siberian
mini spooners.
Siberian Huskies eat mini spooners. That's a fact.
Yeah. That they probably Kira gets into everything. She eats at least one toothbrush a week. So, I gotta go Siberian Huskies. Mila, Kira for life. And then I got another pick here. So, I'm gonna go German Shepherd.
I was on that list. Damn it.
Yeah, I think they're a very trainable dog. They're very loyal, and very intimidating. So people don't screw with you, especially when you have kids someday.
Mm-hmm.
Next pick for me, I'm going to go with a Gordon Setter.
Huh. Okay.
It's a very Irish breed. They're kind of like they have the energy of a golden retriever. But very friendly, very loyal, really good hunting dogs. Really good guy's dog.
Clay, what are you taking, boss?
It's what I've always wanted. Just because I just always wanted to name one Bruce, but I want an English Bulldog so bad, so I'm taking English Bulldog.
That's a good pick.
I just want to know.
And a good name for one.
Oh God, I think they're so freaking adorable. They have horrible health complications, but God damn it.
Horrible.
Yeah. And they are extremely protective.
Very expensive too.
Oh, 100%.
They're a couple grand at least.
Yes.
Andy, who's your round two?
I got to go. So I'm wearing my Hunter Orange for a reason. I got to go German short hair.
Yeah. I knew you were taking that one.
I just have to, and I'll leave it at that. And then
so you're back to back here, Andy.
Yep. So this one, I actually don't know how to pronounce this, but one of my coworkers has it, and it looks like a bear, and it's like Tibetan Mastiff. I don't know.
Oh, it's Tibetan Mastiff. Yeah. Those things are awesome.
But like this dog they look so cool. I don't know. I have to like.
I will never own one in my life, but I want one so bad. They're so badass.
So I got to throw that one as kind of a
good pick
because they look sick.
Pat, we can get a picture of these on the pod.
No, because the amount of media that's going to be on this pod is ridiculous. So, but I'll put up the graphic like I usually do with everyone's picks.
That's what they look like. I just have to show it. They look like a bear.
Massive, yeah. Yep.
Okay, Clay, back to you, buddy.
I'm going to stay on the same thing of what Colin said for his first pick, but I'm going to do an Alaskan Malamute.
The bigger, lazier version of the Huskies. Oh, right on cue.
Yeah, right on cue. Sorry, Mila. I still love you. She heard me. That was a bark of solidarity. She understands.
That's funny.
For my third pick, I'm going to go with the Beagle.
It's a good pick. They're very loud, but good pick.
Not always. If you train them right, they aren't that loud.
That's fair. So I'm gonna go with my next one. I've always wanted one of these. I'm gonna go Bernese Mountain Dog.
I know someone who sells them.
You know somebody who does?
Yeah, that raises them.
Oh, I might have to hit you up. You guys want to know a fun dog fact?
We do not have time.
Yeah.
I want to hear a fun fact.
Okay, special guest requested it.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
Okay. I will never own a Chihuahua for one reason.
That's your fun
every
fact.
ex I ever had a Chihuahua.
That's that's like a hot take from Pat.
They're
That's
the
not a
omen
hot
of
take.
death. They're the omen of death, man. That's all I'm telling you. So I got one more pick left. I think Clay took a couple of mine that I really liked. I'm gonna give a shout out to let's go ahead and go with old Winston and go Newfie.
Yeah, Newfoundland. Great. Now I don't feel bad for not
Love the
choosing it
Newfies.
because I was contemplating choosing it just for Winston's sake.
You gotta give Winston some love, man.
Yeah, he's still doesn't know how big his body is yet, but by golly, he sure tries and sure loves hard.
For my last pick, I'm giving a shout out to the wife because this was on her Mount Rushmore. I'm going with the Poodle.
Ooh.
How do we remove Pat from this?
Andy, how do you get back to the bottom of the hill?
Well, I gotta hop on my tractor and then go, and it takes me about an hour because the tractor's slow. So just letting you know, it takes me a while. But so mine, I gotta go with.
Whoa. Clay's next.
Whoa. Watch out.
They're out of order on my screen. So sorry.
So mine, big dog, but they are extremely lovable, and they sometimes don't know just how big they are, so they act like a lap dog. I'm gonna go with a Great Dane. Love me a Great Dane.
Good pick.
I like that pick. I do.
Isn't the Beast off of Sandlot? Isn't he Great Dane?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Great Dane.
Mine. So growing up, I got to go with one of our old farm dogs, and he was a border collie. I feel like those are just solid.
I was wondering when someone was going to have a border collie on here.
I got to give some love to Buddy. So may you rest in peace. But
yeah, it was between that and a blue heeler, like an Australian cattle dog.
Yeah. Honorable mention for sure.
Yeah. Another honorable mention is I think you got to throw out Dashend. Rest in peace, Charlie. He was kind of all of our adopted pets in high school. So, yeah.
He would get so excited he pee on you.
We got to shout out Charlie for I believe John had to do community service for smuggling into the dorms one.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did. Freshman year.
Yes.
So, John, you convict, I see you.
Charlie was a naughty boy.
Yeah. So,
that was
all
the
right,
last
guys.
time John ever did anything bad.
Let us know. We'll post a poll when this podcast comes out. Let us know who you think had the best draft again. I still have 0 wins, so if I need to start bribing people for some votes, we might need to make it happen. So, all right, boys, it's been a pleasure. Cheers to end the podcast.
My dog.
Have a good one, boys.
Up.
Thanks for joining, Andy.
Thanks for joining,
Cheers,
guys.
everyone.
We'll talk to you next time.